Okay. So I'm James Roberts, I'm chair of this meeting. Welcome to this meeting of the Policy Resources Committee on the 14th of December. First of all, we've got apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies? Okay. So moving on, we've got declarations of interest. Does anyone have any declarations to make? None been received. Item 3, minutes of the previous meeting. Everyone had a chance to look at the previous minutes?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Okay, can we approve those minutes?
Approved, thank you.
Agreed, yeah. Okay. Moving on then to item 4. We've got the HMICFRS inspection report. The Chief Doctor talk us through that.
Well, indeed, Chair, thank you very much. This report is to inform members of the outcomes of the 2023 inspection of Merseyside Fire and Rescue Service by His Majesty's Inspector of Constabulary Fire and Rescue Service. And the recommendation is that members know the outcomes of the said inspection, which can be found in appendices of the report. I won't go into the detail of the background around the purpose of the inspection, but it is there to scrutinise the performance of the authority and the service on behalf of the public to ensure that we're delivering efficient, effective service, and we are able to demonstrate the work that we do in our communities. It looks at 11 areas particularly, and it gives the service a grading based on what they have observed during their time that they spend with us. And then, we provide us with kind of an indication of where we are, provide notable practice and where we can improve some of the services that we are delivering to the public. Members will note the outstanding results of Merseyside Fire and Rescue Service over the inspection programme, and ourselves being outstanding in preventing fire and other risks, outstanding at responding to major incidents, and outstanding at professionalisation of our resources to deliver services to the communities of Merseyside. Interestingly, if you go back to the previous inspections, there's only 5 outstanding determinations made, which Merseyside Fire and Rescue Service secured 3, and we've done that again. In the kind of context of the other 12 inspections that have previously been delivered by the inspectors, this outcome of Merseyside Fire and Rescue Service, as it stands, hasn't shown us above those fire and rescue services, if not all in the country. It then kind of goes on to describe the 5 areas where we are good, and the 3 areas where we are adequate. And adequate is newly introduced grading by the inspectors, and probably equates to satisfactory. We know there is more work to be done around some of our work around culture, and we're intending to do that with our cultural improvement plan that's reflective of those fire and rescue services in the country. But then again, we did see us move around our people judgments from a required improvement to an adequate, so again, an improvement. And I draw your members to paragraph 9 of the report itself, which states, based on the feedback from the inspectors, I congratulate Merseyside Fire and Rescue Service on its performance in keeping people safe and secure from fire and other risks. We are pleased to see that the service has made progress since our last inspection in 2021. For example, the service has improved how it commands fire service assets assertively and safely at incidents, how it promotes equality and diversity and inclusion, and how it works with underrepresented groups in the workforce. So a really strong inspection report that the authority has received. As you will understand, we will still take away, pore over it, and seek to make improvements based on the findings. And that will be part of an action plan which we will develop over the course of the next number of weeks. And we will bring that back to members for scrutiny. But, as I say, there is not a better performing fire and rescue service in the country as it stands. Thanks, Chair. Happy to take your questions on the content of the report.
Thank you. Councillor Byron?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I would like to, I met with our own inspector, new inspector, but also the chief inspector, and they also have sent to the authority and to the service their thanks. I think they don't really know what we mean by that, because in the 5 occasions, I believe, that we have been inspected nationally. We've received the highest marking on each of those occasions in the entire country. The old regime, it was excellent, and this new regime, it's a raft of outstandings. So I think our thanks to the entire staff of the authority is due. They are doing something special. And on behalf of the people of Merseyside, whom we represent, we know that we are proven by the National Inspectorate time after time to be keeping Merseyside as the safest part of the country. We believe wider than that, possibly the world, but certainly demonstrated in the country. What I'm going to ask members is if each of the authority spokespeople would seek to frame a resolution to their own authorities. I'll put a turn of words round. Very simple, that recognises from each of the 5 communities in Merseyside this achievement, and thanks the Inspectorate for what they've done. We move that around 5 districts over the next couple of months. But what we've also done is to offer the Inspectorate system, because they only have inspection. They used to have mentoring. There used to be a system where you could help, you could go in and assist other authorities. Because the objective, I think, as a whole, is to bring every authority in the country up to at least good. And to an extent, in terms of many local government services, you look at social services, you look at personal social services, childcare things, fire as a service is performing extremely well in this country. But still, there are some authorities who could receive assistance, and we've indicated through the Inspectorate that we'll be very, very happy to assist with that. I'll close by just saying again, congratulations to all those who've been involved in getting us to where we are.
Chair, can I just add to that and maybe respond a little? We have put that offer out to other services in regards to taking some of the learning from Merseyside Farms Success practice. And more likely in the requests for support around, particularly around the areas where we are delivering outstanding services to the public of Merseyside. And we will seek to support our fire service colleagues up and down the country to improve their gradings as a result of the work with us.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? Okay, thank you. In that case, sorry, Councillor Hammer.
I was just mindful of not talking too soon because I think last time I sort of other members wanted to go forward, so I thought I'd leave it for a bit. Again, I echo what Les has said about our appreciation. Thanks to everybody involved with the obviously undertaking of the inspection and all the work that would need to be done for that. But also every member of the service, because if it wasn't for them, obviously we wouldn't achieve this high standard. And I've always said that we are the best fire and rescue service in the whole country, and we've proven that time and time again. And I think there's always a but, isn't it, or a however, because even though we didn't get outstanding on every issue, there's some concerns that they have raised. Obviously, I'm glad that you said that the action plan will put it together and go to scrutiny, because I think it needs to be looked at in more detail about how we respond to the areas that we think need to improve so we can get to the outstanding position. But one of the things was on the consultation where we raised a point whether there should be ongoing consultation regarding the RNFP, whether that's something we could think about in the future. Enforcement. Again, it's a big issue for me. I've always thought that we don't do enough enforcement. For certain areas that I think that we need to, I think, because some of the fires and some of the response that we do, it might be at the same culprits, it might be the same organisation, it might be the same company, but there's probably a pattern to some of them. And I think that if those individuals or organisations or companies that really need to be spoken to in a sense and understand that the fire and rescue service is there to attend emergencies. If they can't get their acts together, if they can't comply with the fire regulations, what they're supposed to do, then we shouldn't be on their beck and call all the time. They should ensure that they've got appropriate arrangements in place to ensure that their premises are safe and their staff are safe. And it doesn't, when we have big, massive fires, like the recycling centres, these big industrial fires, we've had some that we can defend, as you say. And I think the likes of organisations, individuals like that, I think we should use every lever that we can, every legal opportunity we can to ensure that they protect, their premises and their staff and the site, and to stop any sort of environmental issues that occur from these massive sites. So I think we should really do very well on that. Go further. The other one is obviously that we picked up on the culture of the fire and rescue service. It's not just Merseyside, across the whole of the country. But I think it's disturbing when we have staff that feel a bit afraid that they can't make a complaint or speak to someone because they feel that they can't do it because of any repercussions to that person, or that the authority might not take it, might take it any further and might believe what they said. I think we need to do a bit of work on that. I think that's probably important because of what's gone on in the past. And we should condemn, wholeheartedly anybody who's misogynist and Islamophobic, anybody who has these traits. There's no room for individuals like that. Not only in this, but in society. It's not the way people should respond to people, and especially as a team, and as an emergency service, you've got colleagues there as a team that you've got to trust wholeheartedly, because you depend on them to support you, have your back, and save your life. So we can't have attitudes like that in this organisation. I don't agree with that. I think it's a problem, and I think we should do something about it. However we work on it, I think we need to ensure that we, from our side, from the sort of the authority, saying that there's no room for any of that attitude in this organisation.
Thank you. I agree on all points. So I'll pick them up in the you've got to start with the last one, so I think that's the most important of the culture of the organisation. And people feeling comfortable to do the health self-aware. And we have introduced some changes even prior to the the findings and the inspector report based on findings elsewhere, so the independent report on that, where people can anonymously issue for the service to then subsequently deal with that. But the broader cultural shift, around a kind of I don't want to use the term zero tolerance, but the fact that we will not tolerate those kind of behaviours that you described, misogyny, racism, homophobia in this workplace. Members can categorically have my assurance that is the case, and we will challenge that wherever it kind of surfaces. But we have got that cultural action plan to put together, which will allow us to facilitate and demonstrate to the members of the authority the improvements that we are making, and we'll have that progress to be scrutinised on a regular basis. In regards to the enforcement, again, the government policy has shifted, on numerous occasions from supporting businesses to more enforcement action being taken. I think we're just trying to strike that balance now between supporting businesses to develop and grow, but ensuring that the enforcement action and the relevant persons are safe within those particular premises. And we are in that process now of redefining what that looks like. We say that because we know that a lot of the prosecutions that we're involved in are directed to small and medium-sized enterprises. A lot are directed to fast food takeaways. And sometimes the reasons why there's a lack of compliance is because there are barriers. And the barriers to those individuals are language and kind of education. And as a result of that, we want to work hard with them to cast them in rather than cast them out. But where we have sought to support businesses in their knowledge and understanding, and they fail to comply with the legislation and the requirements placed on them, then we will enforce. And again, the members of the authority can be absolutely categoric in that respect, because that's public safety and so forth. And then in regards to the consultation, we have attended to, and funny enough, there's a paper coming to the authority shortly around consultation around our community risk management plan. And what we've generally done is consult and then go about implementing the changes and then updating members and equally updating members of the public rather than continue to consult them along progress. And Deb Appleton and her team now are looking at how we do that based on the recommendations contained in the report itself, to have that kind of touchstone with those members of the public to see whether the things that they said were good ideas and have been implemented remain good ideas and have been implemented effectively to their wishes. So they will continue to do that moving forward and develop that further.
Councillor Lennon.
Yeah, thank you. Could you just give me a little bit more information, please, on the version that they put their right people, right skills? And what do they actually mean by that? And give me the example and then tell me what things that was supposed to make that right.
Yeah, okay, so right people, right skills. It's interesting, because it's the inspector's term rather than necessarily terminology that I would utilise, so I would be interpreting what they say, and I'll talk about, you make a reference to the report to outdated working practice, and I'll talk about that maybe a little. But right person, right skills is that is what any organisation would want to have, people with the requisite skills to be able to take their job. Now, when we look at our community risk management plan as it evolves, we will be mapping out the whole of our statutory responsibilities. Now we are seeking to discharge them, so from prevention, protection, response, preparedness, and each of those areas we would want to have the right people with the right skills to be able to undertake that work and get the balance right. And sometimes historically, actually, as a monster, not necessarily for me, it's our fire risk reserve for elsewhere, and people have got the balance wrong, so they will invest significantly in the operation response and the best that investments from prevention, protection maybe, and protection actually was probably disinvested in for many, many years. Subsequently we have, the tragedy of the Grenfell Tower and the subsequent inquiry, and you see government investment being refocused in on protection. And so it is about getting, allocating the authority's budget in the most proportionate way, which affects the risks and the challenges we face and the possibility of risk, not only for the public but also our firefighters, and making sure that we are equipping our staff with the right skills to be able to take the role that we require. And I will touch on language. Language is interesting. We're talking in the report about outdated working practice, and the chair of the authority knows my perspective on that, because we described something that I would describe as standards. So outdated working practice was described from me as a recruit on a parade ground who's been demolished to some degree and had to remain on the parade ground for 30 minutes with the team because they hadn't attended the workplace with shiny shoes, ready to go, and a pressed uniform. Now, people might describe that as outdated working practice, but I regard that as a setting of standards for someone who is entering the service and as a result of that, we need to be able to understand that we need to follow instructions. If we're unable to follow instructions, then that can have catastrophic undertones on an operational instance. So following instructions, setting the standards, but also understanding that they form part of the team. And so if you are a component part of the team and you let the team down, then there's implications for those individuals around their safety too. So on occasion we will have different interpretations of language that's contained within the report, and we have open and honest and very transparent dialogue around how we interpret that. We'll interpret it, we will. And I go back to the point about the response to the report itself and the action plan. We are all about continuous improvement and getting better. And any snippets of focus where we think we can take from the report and improve, we will do. And we will be better for the inspection, but we will continue to work systematically to do that to ensure that the action plan delivers that on behalf of the staff and the public and our staff.
Yes, thank you. For the 30 odd years I've been a member of the authority, we've always, as an authority, put the highest of regard to quality and diversity. More latterly, it's become about calling out what you know or what people know is unacceptable behaviour. And the authority have said that they will call out and we will support anybody who calls out unacceptably heavy. You know what it is, and you know the consequences. On enforcement, we can't do this in a vacuum. Some of it is national regulation. So we've been lobbying through the LGA. There was the Fire Precautions Act 1972 that went, and we need it again. The government had consulted on a fire reform bill. That's 2 years old now. It's old news. It's past by that now. So what we're trying to do at the LGA is to lobby Pathways to Power, new government, for a fire safety act that would modernise since the 2014 Act, since the deregulation orders, and to try and bring in a better framework of regulation for safe places to live, work and play. And that we're going to try and be at the forefront in the whole country of trying to lobby for.
Okay. Any final? No, in that case, can we agree the recommendation as set out on page 13 of the agenda?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on to item 5, we've got the community risk management planning public engagement 2024.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And the first report is to inform members of the outcomes of the recent public engagement regarding the preparation of our community risk management plan for 2024 to 2027, previously described as the integrated risk management plan. And the recommendation is that recommend that members note the outcomes of the public engagement, which will be considered as part of the draft CRMP preparation. And some of the areas that we've focused on, members will, you will be cited on because they're part of our strategy day. And they are very much, and this is very much part of the engagement phase, because some of the things that we are speaking to the public about may end up in our community risk management plan or may not, depending on the circumstances. And certainly, the financials play a part in that around what is deliverable and what is aspirational and where we have to come back to. But part of our conversations with the public, we've done a number of things. We've gone back to them in the first instance around some of our planning principles, and members will be familiar with the planning principles, to say whether they are still fit for purpose. So we have things like, avoiding compulsory redundancy, wanting to performance to get, performance to be measured against our response standards, and so on and so forth. So we have 12 planning principles that we've sort of revisit with them. The initial feedback that we've had was, they're still all very compelling, they're still, really useful, with the exception of what was the one related to compulsory redundancy. That was actually a principle that the members of the authority sought to introduce. And rather than think that that's not a good idea, because absolutely fundamentally did, it was very much more around the kind of concept of the organisation we've got to operate within now, and moving through a period of austerity. And being in a better place and looking at that investment into the service and improving rather than disinvestment from the service. So he thought it was relevant, but no longer as relevant as it had been in the past when we were going through really significant periods of austerity. However, it will be for the members to reflect on whether they want that principle to remain as part of their deliberations. I'm sure the ambition remains the same. What they also said as members of the public is, we think it's important, in the kind of context of society now, as much as anything else, that we factor in the well-being and the well-being of our staff in the broader sense, and self-evidently some of the areas of focus around safe firefighting particularly, we'll pick that up as well. So we would encourage members to maybe add that in, and we'll work that up to reflect the views of the public. We then went on to talk about some of the kind of the areas of focus and some of the ideas and some of the thoughts. And the best part of the report that I can draw members to is in relation to page 86, I think it is, which identifies some of the areas that we were considering, and we've drawn a perspective from the public in regards to that, and that actually is captured within that particular schematic. We talked about increasing the number of fire engines from 32 to 34. And again, not without the challenges. It's not a kind of a guarantee that because there is financial challenges associated with doing that, but we have a strong logic and rationale and legitimacy for it. No surprise that members of the public and the part that engagement would support that. We talked about the reintroduction of the small fires unit, and that as a principle, small fires units were probably first introduced into Merseyside, before any other fire and rescue service for that matter, and then we withdrew them from the service on the basis of probably austerity and the ability to send a fire engine, not necessarily a small fires unit, when actually the finances were pressed. Keep fire engines on the run with a crew of 3, probably particularly focused in on non-life risk incidents at that particular point in time. But we know there are occasions when, due to sickness, absence, and the clients will become unavailable through a reducing number of staff, and there's ways in which we can keep that fire engine on the run and then protect life risk response elsewhere. Again, the public felt that was compelling, and indeed a couple of members of the public said, well, one said it's a no-brainer, that's been reiterated by staff in the nice way. The other one said, surprised you don't do that already. And then and I don't intend to maybe go through all of them. We are talking about trying to enhance our water rescue capability. We know, having had 4 fatalities across Merseyside in recent months related to water, 1 in Cranwell Dam, 1 in Crodley Marine, and 2 in a couple of individual dams with flood water, that we could seek to enhance our capabilities in that area, and we're exploring at this moment in time. It is, in the nicest possible way, extremely costly, but we have to work the cost benefits, particularly given the financial challenges that we may face on the basis of outcomes and announcements more recently. Utilisation of technology and fire control. We know that we can utilise enhanced mobilisation, which I'll touch on later in the authority presentations, to improve our response times, to be more effective, so maybe not between 30 and 60 seconds off our response time across Merseyside. That was hugely impactful. We talk about potential to utilise watch managers a little differently. Again, we've sought the views of staff over the course of the last number of weeks. There's different perspectives on how it can be done and whether it should be done, and we will factor those things in. And then we start to talk about continuing to work with North West Ambulance Service, educating members of the public around foreseeability of risk. We're very proficient around our own safety, but maybe there's ways in which we can capitalise on our warning and informing ability, and then talking about the prevention activities that are most at risk, and those in highest levels of deprivation, which again has been ratified by the members of the public. And then enhancing and increasing our protection staff. Again, probably re-emphasises the point that Councillor Hanratty has made around that enforcement action and that activity, particularly based on the Building Safety Regulator, and strengthening the use of our training development academy, which would be state of the art, national and international training, again, really well supported, and then culminating in a view around the achievement of net zero by 2040. As I say, they are ideas, they are thoughts, they are drawn from a multitude of areas, but particularly our staff over the course of the last round of PO talks. We're back out talking to staff again in relation to those areas. Once we've got something which is a little bit more established as a set of working principles, options, and that will come back out to the authority for ratification and go into consultation more broadly with the rep bodies, members of the public, and certainly some of our strategic partners. So we referenced previously local authorities. When we are going to go out into the districts, we're going to ask them about the proposals and how they see them, how they impact on their provisions at a local level. So it is very much, again, Chair, just to reiterate the point, it's very much a stage of engagement. We have some ideas, some thoughts. We know we've got to marry them up with the budgets that we've got available, and once we've kind of taken them from ideas and thoughts, which have been informed by the public consultation and broader consultation, and we will be bringing them back to the authority as part of our community management planning processes. That's it in question, Chair.
Do we have any questions?
Just an observation then, because if the last item here is going to come to the budget meeting, And that's quite a heavy agenda anyway with all the associated reports. And we're having the strategy day, aren't we? At the end of January. 18th. So obviously for the options that have been proposed or considered following the consultation that's going to be presented to us, would we be able to have a session on what the options are and what's being considered? So it gives us a bit of a heads up to the
Yeah, no, absolutely, and the budget strategy day in January is, for Mike, it's very much about setting the budget for the next 12 months. However, in that 12 months, we will be moving into our new community risk management plan, so it will be remiss of us not to counterfactor those things in and have a session on the particular aspects that you described, Nick, on time tonight. So yes, we will be able to do that.
Any other comments? In that case, can we read the recommendations as set out on page 65? Thank you. Item 6, we've got the Treasury Management Interim Report. Mike Gray.
The purpose of this report is to ensure that the authority meets the requirements of the CIFA Code of Practice on Treasury Management and the CIFA Prudential Codes for Capital Finance and Local Authorities. The code requires the authority to review its treasury management activity during the year to ensure they are consistent with its approved treasury management strategy and have remained within the approved potential indicators. This report meets that requirement and outlines the treasury management activities and performance for the first half of the financial year. The interim report will be found on page 101, and the executive summary on page 102, paragraph 7, summarises the key points of the performance so far. The authority has made no new borrowings to date. We may need to borrow 12 million before the end of the financial year. Financial investments stood at 48 million, with associated income of 643,000 received in the first half of the financial year. The Bank of England base rate increased from 4.25% at the start of the financial year to the current level announced on the 3rd of August of 5.25%. Long-term borrowing rates, the PWLB rates, have increased during the first half of the year by 1.01% from 4.60 at the start of the year to 5.61 at the 29th of September. The authority is aware that at some stage we will need to borrow to finance our capital programme. It's just something to bear that in mind that the authority tends to delay that borrowing as long as it can as interest rates fall. Tend to take out borrowing then. The table on page 105 shows the analysis of the authority's investments. Total current investments stood at 48 million as at the 30th of September, and this included a 30.5 million firefighters pensions grant. Members will notice that 37.5 million of the investments is invested with local authorities. There are no limits on the amount of investments with central government and local authorities if these are considered to be of the highest credit quality and are essentially risk-free. Treasury management activity for the first half of 23-24 has been carried out in compliance with the relevant codes and statutes and within the borrowing and treasury management limits approved by the authority as part of the budget setting process in February 2023. Members are asked to note the contents of the report. Happy to take any questions.
Councillor Byron.
Yeah, you said that we may need to borrow 12 million before the end of the year. Is this not a blue or is this just...
No, this is always part of our financial planning and part of where we are in terms of the training development academy expenditure. What we're doing is looking at the current capital programme. That's what we would need to borrow. But we're currently coming up to the end of quarter 3, and as part of quarter 3, some of that capital programme will be moved into the next financial year, and that will be later borrowed.
Thank you. Councillor Maloney.
Thanks, Chair. You mentioned about the 37.5 million that's invested in local authorities, and there's a good spread there which could provide diversity of the food security. I'm just wondering, when local authorities, and we've seen that recently with Birmingham and Nottingham, amongst those there two big ones, what happens to any loans they have out, such as our investment in other local authorities? Would they be underwritten by the government?
They potentially would be, and that's why it would be essentially risk-free. But when they issue a section 114 notice, what that tends to do limit all non-essential spend. This would be something that they would have to pay, so some of them loans that over a period of 12 months, and particular loans will probably take around about March this financial year.
Thanks, Chair.
Any other questions? I've no real concerns with the treasury management. The treasury management is pretty solid to me. I would just ask, given that we know that inflation's run at somewhere around 10% at various points over the past year, just the fact that we've taken an average of something like 5% interest mean that we have a net loss in our purchasing power.
It tends to, whatever the actual offer about, interest rate based on the actual investments. So in terms of inflation, yes, in terms of the answer, our property tax report, our purchases and paper, some of the things has gone down. In terms of what we're actually investing, we won't match the actual rate of inflation. That's what we mean.
Well, obviously we can only do what we can do locally, there's no inflation, but getting the best possible return that we can is what we should aim for. And I was wondering if, looking at the ratings of the institutions, is there any mileage in looking at other institutions with better rates of return, or do we prefer the service of the higher rated institutions?
I think it's more around the same that we actually set strategy. Around more around guaranteeing that the rather than the extra funds.
All right, thank you very much. The recommendation is that members note the contents of this report, if I agree. Thank you. Item 7 is the financial review for July to September.
This is a financial review report which covers the period of April to September, and the purpose of the report is to provide members with an assurance that the approved budget remains robust and that the current forecast of expenditure can be contained within the available resources. The report can be split up into 4 areas: revenue, capital, reserves and treasury management. Happy to take any questions as we go through each section or at the end. In terms of revenue, if we look at the revenue position, and the net budget requirement remains at 67.9 million, and this is consistent with the original budget. After reviewing the income and expenditure, officers have identified the following savings. The summary table can be found on page 113. Of the £500,000 savings, 250,000 of those savings from firefighter employee budget, and the other 250,000 is from the non-firefighter employee budget. And this is a result of staff vacancies arising from staff turnover in the year due to recruitment and retention problems. As a result of the one-off savings, this report has identified members are asked to approve utilising this savings to fund an increase in the revenue contribution to capital outlay in order to marginally lower the required level of borrowing in 23 and 24. In relation to the capital programme has been updated for 3.1 million scheme additions, and the summary table can be found on page 115. This includes 1.9 million on national resilience asset refresh, 1.1 million increase in the new TDA build related to classrooms, and 150k on fire control, ICT and replacement boats. The 3.1 million increase is funded from specific resources, reserves, grants and revenue. The level of required capital borrowing remains unchanged at 43.7 million. In relation to reserves, the table on page 125 outlines the reserves movement in the quarter, and this was a drawdown from reserves of 1.5 million. The 1.5 million movement on reserves is broken down on page 111, paragraph 7. The majority of the movement is being used to increase the new TBA budget previously referred to fund the new additions previously discussed. Other items include control room, the learning management system and additional training. Treasury management, I've covered the proportion of treasury management in the previous report, but would like to highlight the authority continues to buy treasury management services from Liverpool City Council, and some key details just to touch on, we previously touched on the Bank of England base rate of 5.25%, and it's expected to remain at 5.25% until the second half of 2024. Rates are then expected to fall back over the next 2 to 3 years. The CPI measure of inflation is expected to fall below 2% in the second half of 2024. The authority envisages new long-term borrowing of 12 million may be required, as previously discussed, and the investments you will always find is 48 million, and this includes the firefighting pension grant. The authority does have outstanding debt of 33.7 million. As previously discussed, no new loans have been taken out, and the current market conditions continue to be unfavourable for any debt rescheduling. Recommendation is that members approve the proposed revenue and capital budget alignment, approve the use of the £500,000 employee savings to fund capital expenditure and reduce the level of borrowing, and instruct the Director of Finance and Control to continue to work with budget managers to maximise the savings in 23-24 and use any savings to reduce the level of capital borrowing. Good questions.
Are there any questions in relation to this? Councillor Byron?
Thank you, Chair. Just to remind members, we, unlike your own authorities, we don't receive any specific capital grant allocation. Now, we've been lobbying the government, who weren't actually aware of that, the minister wasn't aware of that. And in terms of lobbying on, incoming government, trying to arrange the situation so that we would have a specific capital grant, and also saying, just budgeting on a 1 year basis is not really helpful. It's not good for government, it's not good for local government. And we've asked them to try and give us a longer period. Also, at what point, we're going to mention that you already put a note out, Chief, I think, about so last year, our grant level was 10.1%, which is in line with inflation. I don't think they're going to give us 5% this next time, who knows? But there'll be, the grant will be announced to us, we'll know where we are, but we're probably looking at, the 3% cap limit for precept, who knows? But there will be pressure on the budget. That will go through on the sort of study day on the 18th. But there's lots of stuff there that we're trying to lobby the government on. And I can assure members that we're going to do a lot more of that lobbying, because the LGA know that the door is open on a lot of this stuff. Thank you.
Just come back just with a couple of points there. We have, members will know, we have done some extensive lobbying, particularly with the finance and subsequently with a number of MPs in government as it stands around the budget allocation for the service moving forward. We had hoped that, as in the previous year, that we would be able to secure a CPI, so uplifting grants reflective of the period of September, and a council tax uplift or council tax flexibility to increase the capital by £5, which would equate to circa about 6% for ourselves. The indications are that the actual uplifting grant may well be reflective of CPI for September, but unfortunately we haven't secured £5 flexibility around council tax, and as a result of that, Council Barnes quite correct, it looks like that the council tax increases that we will be able to apply will be restricted at 3%. So that does give us some reasonably significant financial challenges as we move into the budget setting process into 2024 and beyond. I do reiterate the points around an ability to secure capital funding through government, and also with that how the limited impact that is around implementing change. But again, we're making that point strongly to the government, and we'll do any change of government.
It's just regards legislation. Obviously, there's the item on the agenda about the disposal of I suppose it has to like the potential of any savings then if that sales successful. Do you agree?
Well, generating further income than what we've actually budgeted for.
And that's what across my field. Maybe I'll be better to pick back, take particular questions up on that particular paper. An element of that is pink industry.
Any further questions? And in that case, we agree the recommendations set out on page 109 of the agenda, recommendations A, B and C. Item 8 is the statement of assurance.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. There's a little bit of a retrograde look back rather than a look forward in regard to our statement of assurance. However, the purpose of the report is to request that members consider and approve the authority's statement of assurance for 2022-23 for publication on the authority's website as is a requirement. And the recommendation is recommended that members A, note the information contained within the report, approve the authority's draft statement of assurance, and if approved, that the statement of assurance be signed off by the chair of the authority and the chief fire officer prior to publication on the website. And again, I won't go into any specific detail. What it does is captures the work that we would do in regards to the delivery of our plans and some of the information that we are statutorily required to provide. It takes it and captures it all in one place, and it is reported back as per the national framework, which was revised in 2018, and actually the members' information is likely to be revised again in 2024. But actually, it's a requirement on us to publish that statement of assurance, and the statement of assurance is captured in the appendices. And rather than go into any detail, Chair, I'm happy to take any questions about that.
Questions on the statement of assurance? No.
My neck on the block again.
We agree recommendations A, B and C from page 139 of the agenda. Item 9 is the service delivery plan 2023-24 quarter 2.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And again, the purpose of the report is to request that members scrutinise the performance of Merseyside Fire and Rescue Service against our objectives and the performance targets and outcomes set out in the service delivery plan 2023-2024 from July to September. And the recommendations, it's recommended that members approve the attached service delivery plan for publication on the website, and B, note 2 additional key objectives which have been added to the protection functional plan in appendices F, and they're related to building safety regulator and the gateway process. And you know, and if I do draw members' attention to the service delivery plan itself, the appendices, what I would kind of just reiterate, it looks at our performance to date, then it looks into the delivery of our integrated risk management plan actions, and then the functional plan actions which allow the service to run effectively. And I'm happy to take any questions specifically around any one of the actions, but don't intend to necessarily go into them in great detail. But what we'll focus in on is the performance of the authority over the period and cumulatively. So if I draw members' attention to page 171 onwards, I will work my way through those benchmark indicators in regards to the total number of emergency calls received, and we've seen a really strong performance in regards to the number of calls received and dealt with, and the total number of calls and incidents attended. We've seen a significant reduction in those incidents, and again, I will detail that and more specifically when I look at the performance in relation to certain aspects of our work. So if we turn to page 174, self-evidently there is a significant reduction in the number of fires attended across Merseyside from what would have got in effect 1,258 less than in 2022, which is hugely significant and probably re-emphasises the reasons why Merseyside Fire and Rescue Services is outstanding, preventing fires and other incidents. Total number of primary fires, those ones affecting businesses and property, again, significant reduction in regards to the numbers from 1,020 to 842, very much predicated on our preventative and protective work, delivered by our prevention teams, our protection teams, and also our operational firefighters. And then you move into looking at the number of accidental dwelling fires, which blight our communities. And again, a hugely significant reduction from 413 to 316. And if I go into the detail of what that relates to, if I was to take members back, only maybe 5 or 6 years, Merseyside Fire and Rescue Service would have performed more poorly than any one of the other metropolitan fire and rescue services in the country, predominantly due to the heightened levels of deprivation that we have to endure and the abject poverty that some of our communities are faced with. However, given our prevention strategy and the approaches that we've adopted in twofold, one is ensuring that we are visiting the premises of those people who are most at risk, those over 65, living alone, with maybe disabilities, certainly which would prohibit them from getting out in the event of a fire. But we've also, as members will be aware, targeted our interventions to the most highly deprived areas of Merseyside and to directly impact on the number of accidental dwelling fires. So Merseyside has gone from being the poorest performing metropolitan fire and rescue service to the second best performing fire and rescue service over a very short period of time, and to see significant reductions in accidental dwelling fires. This year, it's likely to be, without forecasting too far ahead, about a 20% reduction in the number of accidental dwelling fires. When you compare that with the national average of about 1%, that's hugely significant. That is not luck, members. That is absolutely the tenacity and the focus of our staff. And that equates to the number of fire fatalities as it stands. We've been sadly 2 fire deaths across Merseyside during that same period, but that is certainly a stronger performance than previously witnessed across Merseyside. I'll move past the number of delivered fires, but still, in and around the correct levels of performance. To move on to the number of secondary fires attended, which is on page 178. And over the same period, we've reduced the number of secondary fires from a comparable 3,394 to 2,508. That is, again, going to say hugely significant. That is hugely significant. And again, testimony to the work that was done. You've seen it through the bonfire period, and you see the work that we do every day in regards to community safety, not home safety, community safety, where our levels of engagement with young people and the activities that we undertake are having a massive impact on the number of calls that we're responding to. Special services are there for assurance, because it's so we don't want to necessarily reduce them if that's part of our focus. But then I draw members' attention to page 181, which is the achievement of our attendance standard and first attendance clients to all out instance for 10 minutes. We set ourselves a target of 90%, and members will be aware that the performance to date is 95.5%. Again, and that is an improvement from last year, which was in the region of 93%. So our first attendance clients to all out instance within 10 minutes is exceptionally good. And then the final one I'll touch on really is in relation to the percentage of available shift slots of sickness absence. And we've set ourselves a target that we are just missing at this moment in time. Set ourselves 4%, and our current absence levels are 4.35. And I know members have taken that particular piece of work into scrutiny, and they are looking at the arrangements that we've got in place to ensure that they are reflective of the authority's ambitions, but we are continuing to work with our staff around their well-being and reducing the number of absences for self-evident, and that's to be avoided if possible. As I say, the next part of the service delivery plan does go into depth around the delivery of the action plans within the IMP and also the functional plans, which I'll avoid going into in any big detail now because it's quite extensive, and the detail there, I'm happy to take any questions, Chair.
Are there any questions? Can we read the recommendations set out on page 167, recommendations A, B, 5.7 and 5.8? Okay. Item 10, the corporate risk register.
Thanks, Chair. I refer to this report to inform members of the current risk contained within the corporate risk register and the status of the risk and associated control measures, including any updates for the period April to September 2023. And recommendation is recommended that members approve the updated corporate risk register for the said period, which incorporates the current status of those risks. And members will be familiar with the corporate risk register. We review it and reflect on the particular changes on a regular basis. The report itself and the register is available for scrutiny by members, and I'm happy to take any questions on any specific aspects of it at this juncture.
Are there any questions on the corporate risk register?
What I would say, Chair, is we do intend to change the format and the look of the corporate risk register. We recognise it's becoming a little bit too big for an accurate scrutiny. There's probably too many risks in there to draw the members' attention to. So that will be a piece of work that's getting picked up by Deb Appleton and really good on behalf of the authority. We can bring that back into the new year.
Okay, can we agree the recommendation set out on page 377 of the agenda? Item 11, enhanced mobilisation.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. You will be aware that discussions and the engagement with the public around enhanced mobilisation are part of one of the considerations within our community management plan. So the purpose of this report is to seek authority approval for a new budget growth to enable operational deployment of enhanced mobilisation. And that's not to preempt the community management plan, but certainly it's to ensure that we are able to hit the ground running in regards to its introduction. The recommendation is it's recommended that members note the added advantages of enhanced mobilisation, note the successes of other services, note the time and where fire rescue services and how they've applied it, note the proposed growth and governance in relation to the project and the timescales, and approve an increase in cost of over 140k into the ICT capital budget, along with revenue growth of £20,000 for the next financial year. But as I say, in regards to the why and in effect the what is the improvements within the mobilising system will allow us to alert our firefighters to an operating incident quicker and significantly quicker. And it's based on technological advancements. So when someone picks up the phone to call the emergency services, we will know where that call is coming from. And we will also know which fire appliance is closest to that particular location. And we will be able to, in effect, pre-alert that particular appliance that they will be mobilising. And we might not have all of the information at that time, but whilst we are gathering that information, the crews will be making themselves towards the fire engine. Why is that particularly important? Because sometimes crews are out in the community doing preventative work, disengage from someone in the home to go and locate the fire engine to get on it. Equally, if they're training, you can have extensive amount of kit equipment out already as part of the training, which you need to put back on the fire engine, which people are mobilising, notwithstanding some of the stuff around mobilising water rescue. So we know if we can get that alert in earlier, we are able to respond quicker. The research tells us from time and where that the application there, they've taken between 15 and 60 seconds off the response time. And we believe that the application into Merseyside, we can do somewhat similar in regard to between 30 and 60 seconds. To put that into context, members, and run the technological changes through our mobilising system, the best way to describe that, we believe that we would need between 8 and 10 whole-time fire engines to be able to achieve a 30-minute response time reduction. So the technological changes will facilitate that because we understand we can't afford to bring 10 fire engines back on the run 24/7, 365 in addition to the ones that we've currently got. But 140k outlay with a £20,000 revenue cost can give us the same outcome. I suppose the other thing to kind of to factor in We won't be doing it in the way that other services have applied it at points in time. We're doing it to mirror the approach that time and we're adopted and probably enhancing it even further than that. So we are very, very keen to support this part of our community management plan and proposals for 2024 through to 27, but also to put the infrastructure in place now to be able to facilitate it as rapidly as we possibly can. Because self-evidently, if we can knock 60 seconds off a response time, we would want to do it as expediently as we possibly can. And technological advancements allow us to do that. So again, Chair, that's probably where I'll just leave that at the moment in time. I can see any questions.
Questions with regard to the council mobilisation? Councillor Moore?
Thanks, Chair. Chief, you mentioned about that geolocation of phone calls. Does that work for mobiles as well as landlines?
Anything?
That's very clever.
Thanks, Madam Russell.
These are sort of like TV, but it's what the coverage is, especially mobile phones. So we're confident that we will get a good coverage on it, and because this has been in place since 2019, by Time Blend, the business that they've got when they introduced it, obviously all the conduct, so we've got a better system now. But what's safeguards in place just to ensure that it's not hacked or any interference by outside sources.
Okay, so we've got robust arrangements in place, and colleagues will recall, and if not, well, I'll certainly ask David Parr for the launch to bring some information back around cyber security. We had external provider come in from the Cabinet or Home Office to take a look at the robustness of our security in regards to a whole multitude of things, but particularly around cyber. And their response back was, and again, throw away, but nevertheless absolutely reflective in my conversations, which is, you've got nothing to worry about, that your arrangements are very, very robust. Now that was, that came back more formally in respect of a report back into the authority providing that level of assurance. So we are assured that we've got good arrangements in place for that particular eventuality. The other thing about the kind of if someone, the simple answer to the coverage part of it, if someone can make a call into the control room, they will have coverage, then we will be able to respond in that way that we're describing it. If you haven't got coverage, then there would be more limited stuff out there.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to reassure you on that, from my perspective, if someone wanted to hack into that system, they're going to pick the mobile phone providers rather than the fire and rescue service, because if they hack the fire and rescue service, they're only going to be able to hack the people who've gone into the fire and rescue service, and it's more likely to maximise the usefulness of that hack that they're going to hack the mobile phone provider. So I think we're the way it works, we are far less likely to be hacked than Vodafone and all the others.
You should have been advising Boris Johnson.
Yeah, we remember that.
But we only got to get WhatsApp message.
Yeah, well, I heard the WhatsApp's gone, yeah.
Any further questions on this issue? Okay, well, from what I can read, I mean, having a sort of a pre-alert sense of fire crews before the conversation even happened on the call to let them know that they should be ready to mobilise sounds like a good idea to me. And if it does, even at the lower end, only reduce response time by 30 seconds, that's still a massive amount. So it sounds like a good idea to me. All right, item 11. Can we agree the recommendations set out on page 451, items A, B, C, and D? So next we have item 12. I understand that the appendix to this report is an exempt item. I've also had it indicated that somebody does want to discuss the appendix, so at this point we'd ask members of the press and public to leave the room so we can discuss the exempt items. Thank you.